Are there any specifics? Dick can give you broad strokes on the budget reduction side, but they haven't put those budgets together. But I think this is going to affect hospitals, and maybe just a couple broad strokes on the cut schedule. Well, kind of a general.
I was just curious when Tom emphasized what we do in the future for future legislatures and governor. I don't know if you had in mind who that governor might be, but and who's going to have to work with that. But,
I don't want to have to manage it.
Okay, I just want to make sure. The budget chairmen have been working extremely hard during the session to try to I won't say minimize cuts, because under no circumstance will anybody be able to minimize cuts. But, for instance, we're trying to work in some ways, as I think Tom or Larry mentioned, to balance the public safety budget, the public safety and corrections budget, vis-a-vis local aids, local government aids, so that we try to provide more money than the governor does to local police and local fire and local sheriffs, people who are at the front end of law enforcement, mitigate those cuts, but in turn we're trying to look for some places to save in the public safety and corrections budget, so you have more of an equality in terms of the cuts. And I think that's one of the things that I would emphasize in terms of what we're trying to do, is to emphasize some of the equality of cuts. Senator Berglund, I know in Health and Human Services, feels that there will have to be some cuts in the healthcare budget. She is trying, given what we've done with hospitals in the past, over the last couple of years, she's trying to make those a little bit more minimal. I thought I saw Senator Pappas here. We're obviously going to have cuts to the systems. What we're trying to do, and I think Larry mentioned it, we're trying to make sure that the stimulus money, again, this is where we have some difficulty in making sure we know what's there by way of stimulus and what's not there. But we have the new Pell Grant money coming in. We're not going to use that money to supplant existing loans and grants. And so if the systems feel that there has to be some type of limited tuition increase, we'll be able to maximize the Pell Grant money and the existing state loan and grant money, so that families that are not in a position to afford tuition will have that much more backup. So that's kind of a theme of what the chairmen are trying to do. Obviously, in terms of direct cuts in these line items, the chairman can speak to that better than I can.
Can you give us any better idea of where the cuts would be in Health and Human Services?
You know, as we get a little closer soon, I think you're going to have the opportunity to visit with Senator Berglund, and I think you'll have the Finance Committee standing here and giving you more information. I think that's sooner than you think, in the next couple of weeks.
Can you give us
one thing I wanted to point out, this may be the earliest one of the legislative bodies ever put out the budget targets. And we tried to do this to accommodate what we believe is going to be a very difficult challenge. We've set up with the House jointly, we have set up our timetables for bills coming out of Budget Committee and stuff. We're going to wait Easter Passover right after that, which will give us enough time in Conference Committee to work out the differences between the House and the Senate, which there will be some, and then get the bills to the governor in a timely fashion so that he can make a determination, have time to look at the bills in a timely fashion, and hopefully we'll have a solution with him at that moment. If not, we'll have to try to figure out a solution. We hope to do all of that, by the deadline.
Like one of these across-the-board style spending reductions, one might conclude that you have concluded that we have our priorities in order correctly now, that there's no need to make a strategic adjustment in spending in order to position the state for recovery. Is that indeed what you have concluded here?
No, I think not. I think, and others may have a different take on this, but I think this problem is so severe, $6.4 billion, that you have to focus on fairness and level of sacrifice by various sectors of the economy and by various citizens. And so in that context, I think that leads you to suggesting that everybody shares, as Senator Bach has pointed out, Senator Cohen, that everybody shares to some extent equally in the budget areas. We take no joy in suggesting there should be cuts in K-12 education. I mean, gee, Democrats, you know, K-12 is a big deal for us. But in terms of making tough decisions, it's not fair to say that we're going to hammer hospitals and kick people out of health care to protect 40% of the budget. It's just not fair. And so I think it's not that we don't think that around the edges some prioritization will take place. I think they will. They will make those kind of choices. But the broad framework is one of shared sacrifice because the problem is so severe, so severe.
Is the K-12 shift included in this?
No.
Well, Leader Pogemiller,
I want to point out, though, as Ms. Sturdivant has pointed out, I'm not taking a hard, never, ever are we going to do that, but we put together a budget that does not need that. If the governor feels strongly about that, we're going to be flexible, but at this moment, it's not necessary to accomplish this budget.
but what you've given us adds up to 4.4, and you're saying it's really 6.4, so where does the...
No,
2.4 in cuts.
2.4 in cuts, 2 in revenue, and 2 in federal.
Okay, so you are counting the stimulus.
Right, but
Medicaid money.
that's the difference between if you say 6.4 versus 4.5. That's the difference. It's the same number. I like to focus on the long-term structural issue. And what's crucial here is the out years. If you don't fix the genuine imbalance, which is $6.4 billion, if you don't fix that balance, then you do as Senator Bach pointed out. It's crisis to crisis to crisis. It's important to make the hard decisions and take the medicine now, because I think citizens understand how severe this is, and obviously we believe it's in the best interest of the state to take the hard medicine now, because when the economy does come out, you want to be in a position to then invest in priorities. And Senator Cohen will probably kick me, but at least 2 of us think that's early childhood.
That's right.
Others think it may be
I was trying
other
to figure out if I
things.
was going to have to kick him, but he's right.
But so, genuinely, there will be priority decisions once the economy starts to come out that you want to be able to invest in. And if you're still trying to balance your budget from 2 or 4 years earlier, you can't. And then you miss the opportunity to compete internationally. Higher ed is another example. Everybody across the country is going to be making reductions in higher ed right now. When the economy comes out, the difference is going to be who can invest quick enough to make the difference.
Senator
So
Clark,
I think we will get back to you as Senator Cohen is able to develop these more specifics in the budget. We'll commit to get our budget chairs up here and give you information as we're able to. And as Senator Bach gets a little further along, we genuinely believe that more openness and transparency in what we're trying to get done here is in the best interest of the discussion. Because we know there will be disagreements with the governor. There'll be differences of view with the House, but our hope is, and we have been working with the House, our hope is that the scope of difference with the House will not be that major, but we're not certain. We just know that the quicker everybody kind of gets to the reality of the situation, the depth of the problem, the better possibility that we'll be able to resolve it in a timely and a fair fashion. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah.